When it comes to 3D text, each have their own strengths and weaknesses, but one of my personal favourites is this floating 3D text, and today I'm going to show you how to create it. Hello my friends, Rob here from Button Press Graphics, back with another Inkscape tutorial, and today I'm going to show you how to create this floating 3D text. So without further ado, let's get started. Now in order to create this, the first thing you're going to need is some text. So I'm going to come over to my text tool on the left hand side, click somewhere in the canvas to get that flashing cursor, and then I'm going to enter some text. Now in my case I'm going to put BPG, and with that done I'm going to select my select tool, and now I'm going to hold Ctrl and Shift, use this bottom right corner and scale it up. Something that looks like that. Now I'm not happy with this font, so I'm going to change it. Now we can do this by coming over to the right hand side, giving this button a click and selecting this letter T that says text and font. Give that a click, and I have already got a font in mind. So we need thick fonts, and we need something that has sharp corners like this. Anything that has a rounded corner will work, but it will take a little bit more tweaking in the later stages. Now the one that I like is this one right here. Can it semi-bold regular? As you can see, that gives you big thick letters, and you've still got the sharp corners at the edges like this. So with that done, I'm going to close that window, and we are going to position this in the right place. That means firstly, we are going to select the text again to get the rotation handles, and now I'm going to hold Ctrl while I rotate it. So holding Ctrl as I move and rotate, as you can see, it will move in 15-degree increments like this, instead of smooth like so. So using 15-degree increments, I'm going to move it up 2 steps. That is the G, or the right hand side of the object, and I'm going to move it up 2 steps so it looks like that. Next I'm going to select it again to get the rescaling handles up again. I am going to click and I'm going to drag it down. Now this little bit here is personal preference. However, I would avoid going too far down. As you can see, that doesn't really make sense. You can't really tell what it says. But something around there is normally quite good. We want it quite flat, but at the same time, we want to be able to make it legible, and we want to still be able to tell what it says. Now with that done, I'm going to move this up. And I'm trying to place this in the top half of the canvas. But now with that done, we're going to need to convert this from a text object to a path, because the next step requires you to use a path. So we're going to go to path, object to path, and as you can see in the info bar, that is now changed into a path object. With that done, we're going to right click and duplicate. Now you can just hold Ctrl and press D to duplicate, but whatever you do with the duplicate, you're going to need to change the color. Now I'm going to change this to a green to make it a lot easier to differentiate between the two. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Ctrl and move this down. However, we want this green text to layer behind this one. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to use this button which says lower selection 1 step. And now we have something that looks a little bit like this. But before we continue, I want to also right click and duplicate again. And again, I'm going to change the color, make this one blue, and then I'm going to drag this down. Now we have our 3 sets of text. We are going to draw a bounding box around the top 2. And with them both as paths, we are going to use extrude. So we're going to go up to our extensions menu. Come down to generate from path, and extrude between two paths. Now when you give that a click, this box will open and I have it set to follow curves and combine lines to a single path. Now you can click apply, but if you want you can check this box right here which says live preview and it will show you what it's going to look like. If you're happy you can click apply and then close. And what this is just a group of objects, as you can see by the info bar at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and ungroup. With that ungrouped, we are going to go path union. Alternatively, you could use union by holding Control and pressing the plus key on the number pad. Now that doesn't mean that we've joined them all together successfully. If I was to select this black piece and move out the way, as you can see there are still little voids in there. But that is easily rectified. We can select that piece again, go back to our path menu, and then we can use break apart. That is going to break all the pieces apart. As you can see, they're all selected now. And then again, union. This is going to make them all as one piece. Now sometimes you are going to get little errors like this right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen tool and I'm going to enable snapping. This is going to allow me to snap onto the edges, as you can see. And now I'm just going to click and then holding Control, that will get it to snap on the vertical axis. I'm going to come up and I can do that for each one. Like there's one here as well that doesn't quite look right. It looks like them are the only two. And now I'm going to use my select tool. I'm going to select the two pieces I've just created along with this extrude piece. And then I'm going to go path union, and that has sorted them out. Now of course I want to turn off the stroke on this. Down to the bottom left corner, hold shift, get rid of the stroke, and we have something that looks like this. Now of course this is also transparent and we don't want it to be. Now we can rectify that, but first I want to select the black text and we're going to use a dynamic offset. We're just going to reduce the size ever so slightly, just so it looks like it's sat on top of the text rather than having a 3D shadow of it. Now to do that, we're going to come to Path, Dynamic Offset, and this will give us our one single node, as you can see right here. I'm going to zoom in on it, and then I'm going to click and drag down, but first I'm going to turn snapping off because otherwise it will get in the way, and then click and drag down. We just want a small border like that. Perfect. And with that done, path, object to path, and that will finalize it. Now with that done, I'm going to change this text and I'm going to add a gradient onto it. Now what I'm going to do is make sure that that gradient is dark blue to light blue. But of course, this again is personal preference. You can do whatever you want and any kind of color scheme that you want. So with my select tool selected, I'm going to come to this button here and I'm going to open my fill and stroke menu. This is found right here by this icon. Give that a select and this will open. Now I'm going to go to this box right here that says linear gradient. And now with that done, I am going to change the colors. Of course, you can go a little bit further with this, like one of the comments said in my previous post, but it is completely up to you how you do it. And finally, for this group of text, I'm going to select this and I'm going to bring the opacity all the way up. And now we have something that looks like that. Our next step is the text at the bottom. Now this one is going to be a little bit more difficult. The reason for this is we are going to have to manually do our 3D effect. Now the way we can do that is we need to separate these letters into their own individual pieces. We can do that by selecting it, going to Path and Split Path. This is going to split each of the letters into their individual parts. Now again, we are going to need to deselect everything, so we select the canvas. We're going to come up to our snapping, give that a click and turn the snapping on. And now we're going to create some new shapes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create new shapes from the center pieces downwards. And in order to do this, we're going to need our pen tool. By selecting the pen tool on the left hand side right here. Now for these pieces, it's going to be quite easy because we're going against a straight edge. We're going to give it a select and then we're going to hold Control and vertically come straight down until we get it snapping on the bottom edge. And then we're going to give it another click. Now once you're at this part, you can right click or press enter in order to finalize that piece of the shape. Now the reason that I do this is because if you come from this piece and come down, you will have to try and guess where this corner lines up with this piece right here. So it's just far easier to click one line and then come back to the start point, give that a click, come down to this point here, and once you snap onto this corner, give that a click. Again, come vertically down by holding Control until it snaps onto the bottom, and then we can come and join it up. And now we have our first piece. Now I'm going to do the same here, but as you can see, there is a curve. Now this curve is going to be a problem if you're not careful. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, it snaps to the outer edge. As you can see there, we want the outer edge, give that a click and vertically come down. Now again, this is going to snap onto the edge again, and then we're going to move across to this corner and straight down. Now on this part, as you can see, there is another corner, so I'm just going to come across and then back up to this point and then back up to this, and we can go straight to the start. Now it doesn't matter that this part is overlapping because we can use intersection. Now we're going to select the canvas to deselect this piece, select the letter on its own and right click duplicate. Now with that duplicated and selected, we're going to select this piece, and with them both selected, by holding Shift when I select it, we can come to Path, Intersection. And as you can see, it has already done this piece right here. And now I'm going to repeat this same principle on this bottom shape here. And just like that, we're done. And now I'm going to use this piece as well. We need to come from this corner and come down. Again, this is going to be easier if I just use snapping with the pen tool, come vertically down, and then come all the way around. And then again, using the same principle we used in the previous one, use the select tool, select the letter on its own, right click, duplicate, hold Shift, press and select this piece, and then Path, Intersection. Now as you can see, this one is going to layer over the top of this one, but what we want is we want this one to be behind this piece here. So we're just going to lower that one step, and now that we have our 5 pieces here, I'm going to show you what I do on all of the pieces coming up. First, we're going to select the B. Now this is where we decide exactly what colors we want to use. Now what I'm going to use is a very dark blue, and I'm going to make sure that we use a linear gradient. Now of course it looks like it's fading out because this bottom color here has no opacity. So we're going to use this alpha bar to come all the way up. That's increased the opacity. And then this top one I'm going to darken significantly because we want it to be darker the lower it gets. Now of course we're going to do it in the same way we colored the text at the top. bring this down, and I'm going to bring this to the lowest point of the letter and bring this one coming vertically up like so. And just like that, we have created our gradient that we want to use. Now, in order to get this to look a little bit more fleshed out, you can play around with the colors and tweak them to your own specifications. Now, I think nearer the top edge, we're going to need it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to just lighten it a little bit like so. I think that looks far better. By doing this, we have now saved this gradient setting right here. So this is the gradient setting from the text at the top. This is the gradient setting from this one. We're going to use this one a lot. Next, we're going to go to the first piece we created, and we are going to go to linear gradient, and using this little drop down, give it a select this gradient, and there you go. We already have the settings. Click off that to close that window, and then all we have to do is to position it however we want. And with that done, I am also going to turn off the stroke because we don't want the stroke on this. So holding shift, press the red X, and there we go. And I'm going to repeat this on all of these other shapes. And just like that, we have our first letter. Now all we have to do is repeat this process for the next two letters, or however many shapes that you have. And just like that, you now have your 3D floating text. Now the last step in order to make this look more dynamic is by adding another linear gradient in the background. Now of course you can highlight these and group these together by right clicking and selecting group, and you can do the same with the bottom set as well. Right click, group, and now you're free to move them closer or further away from each other, however you would like. But in order to get this to look a little bit more 3D, what we're going to do is create a background, and we can do that with the rectangle tool. We're going to come up to the top corner of the canvas, create a box that goes over the entire canvas like so. And now I'm going to go back to my select tool, and I'm going to drop this to the bottom using this button. Now we are going to add a linear gradient to it, but this one is going to be a little bit different. Now of course we have lots of blues here, so what I want to do is I want to mute the tones a little bit. Now the best way you can do that is by using lots of greys and very, very pastel colors. Now what I want to do is I want to position the bottom around here at the bottom corner, and I want to make this go up around here. Now we don't want it going this way because we don't want it to be that much of an angle. The best way that I can show you when it comes to this gradient is I'm going to turn the alpha bar all the way up on that point. And if I was to add another point here and then turn that white, as you can see, we have now got a white glow going across. But if we had it going this way, it wouldn't look right. What we want it to do is we want this glow to go along the same axis as this lettering right here. So we're going to keep it right there, like so. And now you can slide this and get it to look exactly how you want. Now, of course, if I slide it right down near the bottom, you get more of a vivid line, and you can use that to accurately get the angle correct. Now that right there looks perfect. Now I'm going to move that along, and I do want there to be a white line that goes across that text or behind that text, and have all the muted colours coming on either side. Now, of course, we look like we have the light coming from the top because of the lighter shade here. So what I'm going to also do is create another box just like this over the top of everything. But this time I'm going to leave it layered on top of everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my squares and rectangles tool, and then I'm going to start from the top corner all the way down. But this time, before I do anything else, I'm going to go to a radial gradient, which is this button right here. I'm going to give that a select, and then I'm going to move this middle node to the top corner, like so. And then I'm going to bring this node all the way down to this corner, leaving just this one node that I can come up with to around here. And what I'm going to do with these colors is I'm going to change them to a bright white. And now it looks like we have a light coming from one side, and it just gives it that more dynamic feel, like so. Now I asked you lovely people what you thought of a shadow. A lot of you were divided on this. There are a lot that said keep the shadow, it makes it look way more dynamic. And there was a lot of other people saying no, don't like the shadow, do away with the shadow, don't want the shadow. But if you don't want the shadow, you can do it yourself and keep it exactly like it is right now, and I would not blame you. Personally, I think it adds a little bit more depth if it has the shadow with it. But again, this is personal preference and it is completely up to you. But for those of you who want to do the shadow, this is how you do it. So using my select tool, I'm going to select this shape right here. Now, of course, we grouped this together. So I'm going to have to by right clicking and selecting ungroup. Once it's ungrouped, I am going to deselect everything and then select this black shape alone. And I'm going to right click and duplicate. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it down to where the bottom BPG is, and I'm going to move it across. Now it doesn't need to stay on the canvas, this is only a shadow. And with that done, I'm going to lower the opacity in half, because remember, the further away the object is to the shadow, the more the shadow will blur and the more opaque the shadow will be. So I'm going to reduce that, and then I'm going to add a blur. And it really is as simple as that. And there you have it, my friends. You now have created floating text or object like it's come out of the ground. Did you know that you can become a member of the Button Press Graphics YouTube channel? Well, now you do. You will get a lot of added benefits, and you will directly support the channel, enabling me to make much better content in the future. Also, you can send in your artwork into the Creative Corner. This is a regular section where I will showcase your work in a future video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to bid you all a fond farewell, and I will see you next time.